What up, YouTube? Welcome back to another day in the market. Today we're trying to trying to do some market replay, trying to get some reps in the market, trying to understand the market better, trying to see what setups we could have taken, and trying to see what setups we missed. Alright? So we'll be doing some replay for some time. Actually, we'll just do it regular, maybe half the time, and we'll work our way up to more higher time. All right, makes sense. All right then. We're going up to 40s, 25s. All right, 39, 40s again, 40, 25s.
Order filled.
So Opus 5 is supposed to be one of the best, right? Let's see. All right, Opus 5. Let's do a comparison. Let's
Order filled.
compare Opus 5 and then let's compare with um, Fable 5. Fable 5 must be pretty good, but hmm, let's see. Opus 5 and Fable 5, right? Versus ChatGPT. Let's see. I tested Opus 5 versus Fable 5. What you need to know. Let's check it out.
All right, so Claude Opus 5 is here. And if you start to look at the benchmarks, it's
Fable 5 isn't agentic terminal coding is 43%, knowledge work 1861, global problem solving 30%, agentic search 90%, multidisciplinary reasoning humanities last exam 56%. Alright. With tools 64%, computer use 70%, agentic coding 68%, 53%, Playing trigger on a whole new level with his cost versus coster's shit, knowing it will trigger comments. Good work, Nate. I appreciate you making a test instead of showing us a benchmark or result taken from elsewhere. By far the best video testing Opus 5 Fable today. Thank you for taking the time to really show us the reality of building various scenarios. Alright, let's see. Testing without harshness.
for AI agents. And it's interesting here because
Alright,
there's
that's testing
results.
without.
Fable took about 11 minutes and it costed $5.30, whereas Opus here
Oh
took 13
shit.
minutes, so a little bit longer, but it was cheaper
My,
at $4.22.
my shit
You
just
can also see
died.
the breakdown here of input and output tokens and like what models they use. This is the result. So
Mm. I'll be back.
head to head, they both pretty much passed everything, which is great. But Codex thinks that Fable wins here because Fable's production patch is exactly the one line upstream fix, blah, blah, blah. You guys can read through this if you want. But the final ranking here was that Fable and Opus did similar, right? But Fables was a little bit cleaner and immediately reviewable. But now let's take a look at the second one. So I did a very similar example on the second one where I gave them both, the same prompt, the same code base, as you can see. Here was the repo, here was the bug, here's the example, expected behavior, blah, blah, blah. So in this case, Opus took 20 minutes ish and it costed us $6.50. Whereas Fable on the exact same prompt, exact same code base, took 12 minutes and costed us $8.73. So let's go see what Codex said about these results. So here, right, because Fable versus Opus, we actually had Opus perform better. 4 out of 4 passed right here, whereas Fable only passed 2 out of 4 and left this unresolved. So the technical score for Opus was 93 out of 95, and Fable scored 66 out of 95, which is really, really interesting. And think about the fact that once again, Opus in this case was cheaper for us. The bottom line was both agents demonstrated strong repository navigation and independently found the core architectural issue, but Fable's patch is functionally close and fixes the user-facing update bug, while Opus delivered the more accurate, thoroughly tested, benchmark passing implementation. And one thing that I was really excited to see in this release blog from Anthropic, if I can keep scrolling down here and find the right spot, they basically talked about how there was a huge improvement in Opus 5. Okay, let me just find this real quick. Opus 5 is much stronger at verifying its work and iterating carefully until it succeeds, which is huge. Like I kind of alluded to earlier, verification has become one of the most important things that you can do for your AI agents. Essentially saying, hey, don't stop until you hit this condition, and this is the stopping condition. Here's how you can test if it's actually done or not, which basically means if you want them to not stop until a certain metric is hit, like explicitly 10 out of 10 of this objective criteria, or if it's something a little bit more subjective, you can have them spin up sub-agents that have to argue and debate, and you have to keep going until all 5 of them come to a consensus, or something like that. Basically, just the ability for the AI to build something, design tests to see.
Alright. So that's for this live announcement. Let's see how people build an algorithm. Building an let's see how people build a quant, right? Building a quant model. I built my own trading strategy, Ivy League quant. Let's see this.
In 1987, a desk at Morgan Stanley reportedly made $50 million in a single year, which was huge for the time, and that was because a Columbia University computer science student figured out pairs trading for the first time. This was super lucrative for Morgan Stanley for a short stretch of time when they were the only people who knew about it and the only people capable of doing it with their computer infrastructure, but then just a couple years later, the edge completely tapered off and evaporated. This is because traders at Morgan Stanley left to create D.E. Shaw and 2 Sigma and some other giants, and as more capital flooded into this trade, it got crowded and the edge evaporated. This phenomenon of an edge evaporating after it's publicized is not a one-off at all, and actually that's the way that markets are supposed to work. You're never supposed to have an edge. If market prices perfectly represented the value of an asset at every single moment in time, there would be no way to get an edge. That would be an efficient market, and assuming that you're trading a real edge, every single trade you take is bringing the market closer to efficiency. If you have an edge that accurately tells you the price of an asset is too high, you short it, and that brings its price a little bit closer to what it should be. If you have an edge that tells you an asset is too inexpensive, you buy it, and that brings the price up a little bit closer to fair value. As more people find out about an edge, they're going to crowd into the same trades until the price of the asset converges to the perceived fair value. This happens with edge after 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 edge, and the mispricings get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. This will happen until
So if you find an edge, then it's just better to keep it to yourself. That's the point of this first interaction, right? First part of the video.
the edge is completely gone and the strategy no longer makes money. And this brings me to an interesting point. There are lots of edges that you can find today if you analyze them in a really, really naive way. You could look at a super basic and antiquated pairs trade and analyze it as if you were trading a strategy that had no slippage and no transaction costs or something like that that's not realistic at all and think that you could find an edge there. But the truth is, of course, that with any well-known trade like that, the moat is latency. If you're analyzing some public and arbitrage capital to arb it out if it's not really profitable to trade. As the authors of this paper published, estimates that they declined by about 25 about before. This is So if keeping your edge private is so critically important to it not decaying, then why are all these YouTubers posting their strategy for the entire world to see? Why does TJR post a new video every couple days sharing his entire strategy in depth? Any edge he has would surely decay almost immediately. And the common retail rebuttal to that is, oh, quant firms wouldn't want to trade these strategies, their position sizes are too large and they wouldn't be lucrative for larger firms. That's not true. TJR and these other traders trade some of the most liquid securities in the entire world, sometimes with more than $1 trillion traded in a single day. The strategies do not require sophisticated HFT infrastructure and could be fully automated. I am fully aware that these strategies aren't mechanical, but that does not mean they can't be automated with neural networks. It would be very easy. But let's actually drop the idea of institutions trading these strategies at all for 1 second. How have TJR's 1.2 million followers not arbed this out yet? If they do have a positive edge here, they're executing, which means they're pushing price closer to what should be its true value, right? And people can pile into these trades and scale and scale and scale until price converges to its perceived fair value. So if the strategy is working, why haven't they? Well, maybe they are fully extracting some alpha, and then the battle becomes latency, like we talked about before. So assuming TJR's strategy works, sharing it would make it a battle of latency, like we saw in those dozen examples that became dominated by HFT firms. HFT firms with co-located servers and specialized fiber optic cables for faster connection to the
High frequency trading. Alright, that's what I was thinking.
exchanges. But TJR trades from his bedroom in Brickell, Miami on his phone. So what's going on?
This isn't just another day trading course. This is the day trading blueprint.
The course.
Literally the entire trading industry.
The course, right? The course.
Maybe it has something to do with his high-ticket course that you need to book a call with a closer to purchase. The point of the video is this: if you don't create the edge yourself, or have to sign an NDA or some legally binding document to keep it secret, it is bullshit. If the trading strategy is public or for sale, it is a scam. TJR says he sells his strategy to make some extra money on the side. If he had a strategy with an edge on some of the most liquid assets in the world, the most scalable assets in the entire world, why wouldn't he scale it to tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars? Why would he still be trading on his phone alone? Why are you not safeguarding this edge with your life and out raising money from investors to build a fund? Why are you not hiring quantitative developers on NDAs to build out a programmatic implementation of your strategy? These are the steps you would take if you had the edge that you say you have. Nobody would have any idea what your strategy is. The entire way that retail has been made to understand trading is fundamentally wrong from the very first step. Everybody is starting from step 2, choosing an influencer whose strategy they want to copy and learn. If the strategy is public, it doesn't work in the first place. Step 1 is building the strategy from scratch, discovering unique and novel relationships between features that you engineer, noticing something that other people don't notice. And if and when you find something, then from the very beginning, you're silent. Any narrative other than that is sickeningly incorrect. But nobody wants you to know that. Under videos that I've posted exposing ICT or TJR, I coded TJR's strategy a while back, and another guy named Justin Werlin, and I get these comments under them: if ICT concepts don't work, then what does? Something proprietary, nothing you're gonna find online. If you can find it published, it doesn't work. If somebody's selling it to you, it doesn't work. You have to build it yourself. Since this information is somehow almost impossible to find on the internet, because it's just
Facts.
flooded with videos of gurus, I'm gonna go step by step from step 0 to step done. From 0, not 1 buying a guru's course.
Yeah. I think that's the problem with this industry, right? Like, you see a lot of people trying to give information and sell you something, but you don't know if they actually have an edge in the market. They might just be selling you a fake dream, right? That's the problem with this industry.
But step 0, obtaining data, pre-processing it, engineering features, everything, all the way through properly testing and deploying. Nobody should ever buy a course again after this. They should create their own strategies, and nobody should ever trade a strategy that does not truly have an edge, because they'll know how to test it
All right. Let's see this.
I've realized something about trading. That's exactly up the hedge fund method. And after auction, return. Go back over the Quarter Rock, Arkansas is not the same way you get there from Nebraska. And it goes without saying that as you make your way on that journey, let's say you get to Ohio, for example, the journey to get to New York City from Ohio is also different. The journey to New York from Ohio is entirely unique. It doesn't matter at all that you started in Little Rock if you're in Ohio trying to get to New York. I hope I've made that quite clear. To summarize, the past doesn't really indicate where the future is going to go. And you might be thinking, well, Lewis, didn't we just do like the 20-day thing back in history throughout the whole history of Bitcoin? Why would we do that if the past was irrelevant? And maybe I was a bit extreme there, but the Markov principle really is looking at today. Today has the most weight. And it brings us to this thing called the hedge fund matrix, which before this video, I had no idea this thing exists, and it makes all the sense in the world. And it brings everything we've talked.
All right, let's see. Damn. Still building, huh? Bubbles, tick bars. Bubbles. See. Window 1 minute, 30 seconds. So 1x play. Bubbles. Check out free 590 gigabytes. 589. That's pretty good. Pretty dope. We got rid of all the shit that was in the PC. AI viewers streamerboo.com. I don't need AI viewers, my friend. Alright, round value area low. See the tick data flowing around, right? So the value is shifting to the downside, but the POC is still to the upside, right? We can take a long from here and target this 2797, 2797.5. So if we had taken a long, then we would have probably gotten stops out, right? Right. To prefer tick value. What else we need? What else we need? Uh, ready. On what else we need? Okay. What else we need? All right. It's pretty good. The Opus 5, the way it manages the tokens is pretty good. Because Fable 5 Ultra Code, the tokens are boom, 5 minutes, and you run out of tokens. Even in the max version, 5 times, 5x max. So I think Opus 5 Extra or Sonnet, those models are more efficient for just for basic coding. Fable 5 maybe you could use for planning and other things, but if you just want to use it for like um coding and stuff, then Opus or maybe even Sonnet, Haiku, there's a bunch of models. You just gotta be smart with using those models.